This episode of the Digital Desperados podcast is brought to you by SaferNet VPN, found online at SaferNet.com.
Hey, welcome to the Digital Desperados podcast featuring dark tales from the web. Patrick McMurphy's here today to ring in the new year with another dark tale. He's joined by Brad Hawkins, founder and CEO of SaferNet. I'm Jim Brangenberg, and I'll serve as your story guide. This podcast brought to you, of course, by SaferNet. Business owners, listen up. Criminals and search engines do not need to know everything you do on the internet. SaferNet ensures your company's safety with its powerful cybersecurity defenses. Explore the Control Center dashboard for seamless management. Shield your workforce from inappropriate web content using 84 website filters. Trust SaferNet, your path to worry-free online operations. Get secured now. SaferNet.com. That's SaferNet.com. All right, Patrick, in this new year, what do you got for us today? What dark tale are you going to unveil?
Well, Jim, we're starting off with something a little bit different. We're starting off with Elizabeth Holmes, the founder of Theranos. And why this is different is because this is actually the first time we have a lady digital desperado. Now, before I get into her life, I really have to go over Holmes', I suppose, parentage, her ancestry. She comes from, I suppose, what one might consider old money and old business. So Holmes is born to Christian Rasmus Holmes IV and Noelle Ann Doust. Her father held executive positions in government agencies such as USAID, the EPA, and USTDA, while her mother worked as a congressional committee staffer. Holmes had Danish ancestry through her parental great-great-grandfather, Christian Rasmus Holmes. These names, man. He was a Danish physician who immigrated to the US. She's also a descendant of Charles Louis Fleischmann. He was a Hungarian immigrant who founded the Fleischmann's Yeast Company, and they were a significant player in American yeast and bacon industries.
Still today. You can see still today.
Yeah, exactly. So she's from a lineage of business people and probably a considerable amount of dollars as well. So Holmes attends St. John's School in Houston, Texas. She's recognized for her academic excellence. So right off the bat, not everything is handed to Holmes. She is smart. She's very, very smart. She has an interest in computer programming during high school, and she actually starts a business selling C++ compilers to Chinese universities. I won't dive into that too deeply, but it's basically just, in layman terms, it's just how one might run programming software. I'll just leave it at that. But in 2002, she enrolls at Stanford University to study chemical engineering. During her time at Stanford, she's working as a student researcher and lab assistant in the School of Engineering. And by 2003, age 19, Holmes actually drops out because she wants to pursue entrepreneurial ambitions. So Elizabeth Holmes, at this point, founds Real-Time Cures. This was later going to be renamed Theranos, and this has a miraculous goal. And so the goal here is developing a device which could conduct comprehensive blood tests from a single finger prick. And so Holmes envisions this portable device that basically makes blood testing much more accessible and much less invasive. And so I remember this being all over the news at the time, and it's by, we'll say, the early 2010s. She gets a lot of attention from Silicon Valley because this is a big tech thing. She presents herself as this visionary. She could revolutionize the healthcare industry with this device that promised to conduct hundreds of blood tests using just a single drop of blood. This captivates investors, business leaders, and of course the media.
And of course, the pharmaceutical and health industry, who says, It sounds like a Tucker. It sounds like a Tucker story coming up here.
Absolutely. But Holmes kind of envisions Theranos as a company that was democratize healthcare, basically making diagnostic testing affordable, accessible, and painless. And so it gets more outlandish because she goes on to claim that it could have early detections for things like cancer and diabetes at a very early stage using a small machine she calls the Edison. And so by 2013, Theranos had formed a partnership with Walgreens, opening these things called wellness centers. And patients could there go and access these Edison devices. And Holmes becomes this darling of Silicon Valley. She's described as the next Steve Jobs. This goes to her head so much that if you look at photos of her from 2013, she's going around with the minimalist black turtleneck as her trademark, just like Steve Jobs. I mean, the one's all over the place. She's on the cover of Forbes, Fortune, everything. She's celebrated as this young self-made billionaire.
Wow. This story, I can't wait to see where this one ends up. But it's important to recognize that World War III started on your computer when Al Gore unleashed the internet in 1994. Do you want to fortify your business against cyber attacks? SaferNet is the only answer you should consider. Our easy-to-use cybersecurity app protects your enterprise on all fronts. Secure your organization now with a VPN, internet filters, and so much more. SaferNet.com. That's SaferNet.com. I got to believe, Patrick, she's starting to make some enemies because of the things she's saying, because I remember going into those Walgreens blood testing centers, but I don't remember hearing about Theranos anytime recently. So keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. So by 2014, Theranos is valued at $9 billion, and Holmes owns half the company, making her the youngest self-made female billionaire at the age of 30. And so, as you can imagine, Theranos is attracting a lot of investments, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions. But investors include people like Rupert Murdoch, we all know the media mogul, the Walton family, of course, the owners of Walmart, and Betsy DeVos, who's a former U.S. Secretary of Education, apologies. And so Holmes has this idea to bring very influential figures onto the Theranos board of directors, basically to kind of leverage the reputation and bolster the credibility. These include people like Henry Kissinger, George Shultz, and James Mattis. Now, what's important about these three people, they are non-medical professionals. Yes, they're professionals, but they're very little in terms of medical backgrounds. So it's contributing to this company's air of legitimacy, but it's kind of lacking the expertise to kind of scrutinize a lot of its claims. And so 2015, there's a bit of a shift. There's the journalist John Carreyrou from the Wall Street Journal, He published an investigative report that revealed very, very serious flaws in Theranos' technology. And so we're talking key revelations here about the Edison machine. It just does not actually work, right? It's magic beans. So it was unable to provide accurate or consistent results for most blood tests. Theranos are secretly using commercial analyzers from companies like Siemens to perform the tests, contrary to public claims. And employees then, to, I suppose, a lesser extent, but employees are talking about there is this, I suppose, culture of secrecy. Any dissent was suppressed. Whistleblowers face retaliation. And so Carreyrou's reporting, based on the information and based on information from former employees, kind of marks the beginning of Theranos' unraveling and the end of Holmes here.
I knew it was too good to be true.
Now, did she originally claim that she invented this, or is it something that she said that she had a team of people that worked on it, or where did that come from?
I mean, it would have been a group thing. It would have been herself, but she studied chemical engineering, things like this, and so she claimed she was behind it for sure. Now, she did have a partner. They were actually in a relationship. He was Ramesh Sunny Balwani, and he was also a part of claiming that he had created this thing.
You know what it is? I again, Patrick, you're just too young to know it, but you know where she got this idea? Star Trek Next Generation. That's where she got this idea, because the Dr. Beverly, she had that little device. Beverly Crusher. She'd come up to somebody and she'd just a little finger prick and she could tell you everything about your body that you wanted to know with her little handheld device.
Absolutely.
It was like a Palm Pilot, only slightly more sophisticated. Palm Pilot, look that up on the internet. That's what it was, a device. That's where she got this idea. I would bet you all the money in my wallet, which isn't very much, that's where she got this idea. Especially since it didn't work. Try to prove me wrong. Just try to prove me wrong. So far, Brad, though, SaferNet doesn't seem like it could be a hero in this story, because this is just plain simple fraud. But SaferNet can keep us from getting involved in fraud, can't they?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, can you imagine how many opportunities of phishing attacks or hacking attacks or whatever? But yes, we absolutely can keep things safe. We can't keep you from investing in bad companies, though. That's one thing that SaferNet has never been able to do.
All right, Patrick, let's hear the finality of this poor lady's story.
Right. So these revelations, they prompted investigations by multiple federal agencies. So the FDA found that the Edison device, again, did not work. It was unapproved for many of the uses Theranos claimed. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services accused Theranos of endangering patient health due to inaccurate test results, so they got their license revoked. The SEC and Department of Justice launched inquiries into Theranos' financial practices and public claims. There was major partnerships, the ones like with Walgreens, they fell apart. Walgreens actually filed a lawsuit against Theranos they were looking for $140 million in damages for breach of contract. By 2016, Theranos had laid off most of the employees and ceased offering these blood tests. So Holmes had this reputation of an icon. It was in complete freefall, her reputation at this point. 2018, so I mentioned Sonny, this was her partner. He was the CEO at Theranos. So both he and Holmes, they were charged with really massive fraud by the SEC. They're accused of things like deceiving investors about their capabilities, falsely claiming the company had contracts with the Department of Defense, and inflation revenue projections, So Holmes settled with the SEC, agreeing to a $500,000 fine. She I can't even pronounce here. She
relinquished her shares.
She gets rid of her shares in Theranos. She then gets barred from serving as an officer or director of a public company for 10 years. But then, of course, the Department of Justice aren't finished with her. They filed separate criminal charges against her and her partner, accusing them of defrauding investors and patients. So 2022, Holmes is convicted on 4 counts of fraud and conspiracy, 3 counts related to defrauding investors, and 1 count related to conspiracy to defraud investors. So she gets 11 years in prison and 11 years and 3 months in prison. She began serving this in May 2023. And so Holmes' story is important because it kind of, if you look at Silicon Valley, it kind of resonates with this. It is a cautionary tale about Silicon Valley. They have this fake it till you make it culture. But, fake it till you make it might land you in prison. And it raises questions about hype and reality in Silicon Valley. There's any time, especially, AI, is coming on, but before AI, there's all these things that the media are saying, this is the best thing ever. It actually doesn't work. There's accountability, oversight in healthcare and technology industries. Clearly, they failed to prevent all this deception. And lastly, and I suppose this is a kind of interesting one to consider, and it's kind of brought up in a lot of circles, but you could mention, I suppose, gender dynamics here. So Holmes was described as this trailblazer for women in technology, but her fall completely opened debates and scrutiny. Like, if you're a female entrepreneur in Silicon Valley now, people are going to be like, are you like Elizabeth Holmes? So she kind of ruined things for a lot of people. But her legacy is one of ambition gone completely awry. She remains a symbol of dangers of unchecked ambition and pressure to deliver in Silicon Valley. Her story continues to provoke these debates about ethics, innovation, and really the human cost of deception in the pursuit of success. So that is today our very first female digital desperado, Elizabeth Holmes.
That's quite a story.
Yeah.
And it is true that there is a lot of fake it till you make it mentality
Yes.
in the tech world or in a lot of the investment world as well. I mean, it's across the board, and it's incredibly dangerous to be able to try to decipher what is true and what's not. And one of the things that I'd say is we would love for someone to try SaferNet and see if it's true. see if it operates the way it's supposed to operate, and determine whether or not it is something that would keep them safe and free in the internet. So
it certainly works a lot better than Edison did. So,
oh my goodness.
So, I mean, just imagine how cool that would be. But, it just tells you can learn a lot about life on Star Trek, but not all of it is reality. All right. You heard it here. The internet and everything digital can have a dark side with many dark players. That's why you need SaferNet by your side. So thanks to SaferNet for bringing us these stories to our ears and giving them an exposure they need. And a little disappointing ending today, Patrick, but it is the story. Please, for your own security and the security of those you love and those you work with, check out SaferNet.com and get secured today. You'll never regret it. Till the next time, click only on the links from those you trust and delete the rest, or you may become the next victim of a digital desperado. Or maybe be careful buying stocks too from friends. Until next time.
This episode of the Digital Desperados podcast is brought to you by SaferNet VPN, found online at SaferNet.com. My Windows computer updates security every few days. Is it enough? Stay ahead of cyber threats with SaferNet VPN. For businesses seeking top-notch security without complexity, we've got you covered. Plus, protect your family with powerful internet filters. Experience the ease of cybersecurity with SaferNet VPN. Join us in creating a safer online environment by getting secured now. Sign up at SaferNet.com. That's SaferNet.com.